Welcome to The List. We're seeing the past in a new way by going old school. From seeing the world through the lens of an old school camera.
It has great contrast. It has a classic look to it.
To seeing your old friends a new way.
We grew up with those characters and they mean a lot to us.
But first, the foods that defined the 80s.
To know that this is something that generally the public has not seen in over 3.5 decades.
It's your life, it's your list, and it starts right now.
Hey everyone, I'm Christina Guerrero.
And I'm Jimmy Rhodes. And today we're doing a show that's all about pausing for a moment and savoring some of the fads and styles that help bring us to where we are now. In other words, we're going old school.
I love that. Let's start way back in the 80s, a decade that brought us leg warmers, neon everything, and big hair, like really big hair.
But some of the most enduring trends from that decade involved what we ate, from mall favorites to a groundbreaking style of pizza.
The History Channel's Adam Richman is bringing us back with foods that taste like the 80s. And that's our featured story at the top of the list.
Yeah! The 80s brought us unforgettable cultural icons like Jazzercise, the A-Team, and new wave acts like A Flock of Seagulls. Musical tastes have changed, but have our taste buds? The History Channel's Adam Richman looks at what we ate in the 80s.
Join me as I reveal some surprising tidbits about the foods you love from one of the greatest decades ever.
We'll start off at the mall with a pair of food court favorites, Auntie Anne's and Cinnabon.
The finest, freshest ingredients, baked fresh before your eyes.
Adam says one ingredient almost sidelined this classic treat. Luckily, the owner's son went against Dad's wishes.
They were originally supposed to contain raisins, and he just, of his own volition, sort of contradicted his father and said no raisins, and I was like, you're doing the Lord's work. Raisins are awful.
Another food court fave is Auntie Anne's. Adam discovered their recipe has a unique twist, a secret dip that is so crucial you'll barely recognize the flavor without it.
Really, like no flavor. How tragic is it? Even butter couldn't save it.
Food bloggers speculate it's either baking soda or a dash of sugar that unlock the flavor. Either way, it was a recipe for success.
I think we've sold very close to 1.7 billion pretzels.
Domino's, the pizza that dominated the decade, is next on our tasty tour of the 80s.
Pizza is the only thing Domino's Pizza makes.
And one of these pies was a tad too far ahead of its time.
For 6 delicious months, Domino's actually had a breakfast pizza.
The savory breakfast pie came with a USA Today newspaper and a coffee. While pairing those items these days sounds easy, it was a logistical nightmare in the 80s.
Before the internet, it just wasn't possible. It just proved to be a little bit of a logistics snafu.
But Adam was able to taste this classic.
You've got American cheese, eggs, breakfast sausage, bacon. To know that this is something that generally the public has not seen in over 3.5 decades is so amazing. You know I have to taste it.
We'll wrap it up with something to chew on. The taste and flavor of Big League Chew is sure to bring back memories.
But Big League Chew was in a league of its own in the 1980s, and I was able to get the inside baseball on this transcendent treat.
Rob Nelson, a left-handed pitcher for the Portland Mavericks, wasn't a fan of the bad health effects of chewing tobacco, so he founded Big League Chew.
I said, what would you think of the idea if we shredded bubblegum and put it in a pouch where we could look cool, but we wouldn't make ourselves ill?
Today, they're about to sell their 1 billionth pouch.
Catch Adam Eats the 80s, streaming on the History Channel. Taking our taste buds back in time.
Oh, hello, gorgeous.
Is at the top of the list.
Manufacturers are selling everything from retro black and white film cameras to waterproof disposables, and people are snapping them up. Hattie D. Jamal looks at how throwback gear has put the fun back in photography.
Once disposable, now renewable, single-use film cameras are back. The biggest adjustment? You gotta think before you click, because unlike digital, you're limited to 27 exposures.
It kind of forces you to stop and really be in the moment and take your time and appreciate what you're shooting.
Photographer Chris Kuhn says the comeback of single-use cameras is a great way to get into film. From simple to slick, he shares 3 of his favorites. Making a splash in our first spot, the Fujifilm Quick Snap Waterproof. This camera features 27 exposures of Fuji's iconic high-speed color film and a wide-angle multi-purpose lens. The killer feature is you can bring it anywhere, and at $13, you don't even have to worry about losing it. This'll be fun to try for your summer pool parties. And unlike your smartphone, it's totally waterproof and 100% recyclable. Any CVS or Walgreens will develop it and give you prints and digital files. Find the camera online. Snapping into the second spot is the Snap It subscription box, a service that sends you a single-use camera with flash every month for $29.
We send you a little mailer, so all you do is you leave the camera in your mailbox, the post office picks it up, they give it to us, we develop it, and we send the photos right to your phone.
Snap It founder Evan Senra says you don't have to worry about it ending up in a landfill.
We recycle the film, and we recycle all the bodies.
You can choose from 30, 60, and 90 intervals for camera delivery. You can find it all on snapitbox.com. We've come to the end of our roll with the Ilford HP5 Plus single-use camera. It allows novices to try out their famous HP5 professional quality black and white film.
It has great contrast. It has a classic look to it.
The caveat with this cam is you have to send it out to a lab that does black and white processing. Your local drugstore most likely does not.
Black and white is a different process altogether.
And you can find it online for $13. Seeing the world through a different lens with single-use film cameras.
Well, here's a little variation on today's theme. We are checking out something old school that's getting a new school twist. Now, if you're a fan of the TV show Friends and you wanted to pop into the sitcom, well, you can do it now thanks to the immersive Friends experience. Teresa Strasser's living that Instagram dream.
That song, that iconic opening scene, just a couple of the many things people from around the world love about the show Friends.
Oh, come on. I mean, it's 26 years old, which is crazy. We grew up with those characters and they mean a lot to us, which is why they want to come here and check it out.
That's right. Thanks to Warner Brothers and Superfly X, there's now an immersive experience where Friends fans can walk through the recreations of the sets. We were lucky enough to check it out, the one in Phoenix, where Stacy Moscatelli, co-president of Superfly X, gave us a sneak peek into a few of the rooms the exhibition offers. First, we stopped for a cup of joe at Central Perk.
What kind of reaction do you get when people walk into Central Perk?
You either get a squeal or a gasp.
Here you can channel your inner Rachel to take some orders.
My first paycheck!
And of course, take a seat on the orange couch.
Do you want some coffee?
I would love some coffee, and then can I tell you about my problems in my dating life?
We were on a break!
Next, you can take a stroll over to Chandler and Joey's pad.
The scene that we've recreated is when Joey created that media cabinet that was too big and blocked the door. We've got their recliners, which they loved.
Do we dare?
We dare.
And you can even play foosball where their poor pets, Chick and Duck, once got stuck.
So you can hear them chirping to get out.
It's Chick and Duck. Can you hear it?
Finally, we headed over to Monica and Rachel's.
So many scenes happen in that apartment. Purple door.
Wow.
You can sit at the table, but make sure not to leave crumbs because, you know, Monica.
Why is everything different?
Bye.
She's controlling.
Yes, very controlling.
And they didn't forget about an ode to ugly naked guy.
Is that his butt?
This Friends experience is here for you.
This is definitely the iconic Rachel. But I liked that Rachel.
In different cities this year, so you can check out those dates and locations at friendstheexperience.com.
Up next, we continue going old school. Keep on rocking with these legendary musicians.
The greatest pop and rock albums ever made.
Plus, why we're obsessed with 90s fashion.
We didn't really care what we wore.
And hit the arcade with the #1 video game of all time. Our Going Old School show continues next.
Welcome back to our Going Old School show. Now, 42 years of munching dots and dodging ghosts is tiring work, but PacMan is still going strong. Jackie Danker has 5 fascinating facts about the historic video game.
The ghost chasing began more than 40 years ago when Pac-Man landed in American arcades, and gamers still haven't gotten their fill of those elusive yellow dots. To celebrate, we jumped on the nostalgia train to find 5 things you didn't know about this legendary game. First up, Pac-Man gobbles up a lot more than just those dots. It's one of the top-selling arcade games of all time. As of 2020, it had sold 400,000 units, which translates to about $2.5 billion in quarters. Next up, Guinness named Pac-Man the most recognizable video game character in the world. More than 94% of Americans can instantly identify him. Well, so much for Mario, Sonic, and Pikachu. The third thing you may not know is that Pac-Man's face has been plastered onto more than 400 products.
Now, Pac-Man isn't just a game you play, it's a crispy corn cereal that's coming your way. New Pac-Man.
From food items like cereals, pastas, even Red Bull, to toys like the 40th anniversary Tamagotchi, which you can buy today online for about 35 bucks. At number 4, Pac-Man fell in love and his girlfriend made gaming history. When Miss Pac-Man was introduced in 1982, she was the first playable female video game character. Finally, why not go big with the world's largest Pac-Man machine?
This is exclusive to Dave & Buster's, and you can find these throughout the country. I mean, Pac-Man's been a cult classic for decades. If you haven't played it yet, you're missing out.
Game over. That's 5 things you didn't know about Pac-Man.
If you're looking to start a new hobby this year, you can stick to the obvious stuff like collecting stamps, coins, sneakers, or you might be inspired by the 3 unusual collections we found that are epically cool. Coming in at number 1, Urbandale, Iowa's Brian Hogan transformed his basement into his own private blockbuster-like bunker.
Welcome to the video store.
Its walls are packed with so many movies, he's lost count.
Somewhere in between 4,000 and 5,000.
Brian says this pandemic project started after his collection took over his entire home, his car, even where he works.
His movies were piled up all over the place. I mean, this was the collection that we're talking about, and it had no place to go.
It took him 4 months to build and was completed with movie props, a snack bar, cash register, even a movie return slot. And he says in a world of streaming choices, he wanted to preserve the video store experience.
This video cover over this video cover, you know, and you get to make that decision as opposed to an algorithm.
The best part? No late fees. At number 2, North Tonawanda, New York's Jacob Kadzierski and his paper napkin collection.
When people come in here, they're like, oh my, this is crazy.
In 35 years, he's amassed over 10,000 napkins, and part of his collection was recently featured at the Carnegie Art Center.
This is the first one right here. Santa.
He has napkins from weddings, birthdays, anniversaries, even a pop culture napkin he bought for 25 bucks. You know, I wonder if he originally jotted this idea down on the back of a napkin. And third on our cool collections list, Mount Sterling, Kentucky's Mark Brown, who recently auctioned off 520 vintage lunchboxes.
Everything I touch has memories of Dad. Usually the first expression was, wow. How did he collect so many?
His dad bought his first lunchbox in the 80s, and for 40 years he collected a wide range.
Your best hope is that it goes to the next generation and they will love it and care for it exactly as you did.
All in all, Mark Brown got nearly $50,000 for his dad's collection at auction. The most coveted piece, this 1957 Toppy lunchbox that sold for over $3,600.
It evokes a memory, and they start talking about the kid they sat next to in school or a bully who stole their lunch.
Loved those metal lunchboxes when I was a kid. And those were 3 crazy cool collections we just had to share. Lots more to come on the list. Stay right there. We're back, and one place people love to go old school is music. The 1970s were 50 long years ago, and while bell-bottoms and mutton chops may go in and out of fashion, the music from that decade has had real staying power. We're looking at the top artists of the 1970s, including one who's still touring to this day on the Hot List.
70s music was like a bridge between the hippie 60s and the yuppie 80s. The result was raw, unbridled fun.
Well, I really love the sound of 1970s music, and it was before Pro Tools, so everything had to be sung by human beings in tune, no auto-tune.
And taking us through some of his favorite singers from the 70s is the host of the Greatest Music of All Time podcast, Tom Cridland. Up first, Captain Fantastic himself, Elton John.
Elton's albums between 70 and 76 are the greatest pop and rock albums ever made.
With over 300 million records sold, he's one of the most commercially successful musicians of all time.
What have I gotta do to make you love me?
He's an ambassador for so many different genres. Pop, soul, gospel, blues, rock and roll, you name it, he can play it.
Knighted by Queen Elizabeth II for his services to music and charitable services in 1998, Sir Elton continues to pack him in at his live performances.
He's, in my view, he's the best live act in the world, and he has been for as long as I can think of. There is not an artist who has managed to stay relevant for 6 decades in the way that he has.
Up next, an artist who pulled our heartstrings as he made us imagine living for today, John Lennon.
John Lennon speaks to me particularly because I've never seen somebody in interviews on record, like his singing voice on record, who just sounds so cool.
2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
The Liverpool legend is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and also made it in Rolling Stone magazine's list of greatest singers and artists of all time.
And Lennon has that attitude voice. He can sing with so much gravel in his throat. And everything that he wrote was so personal.
If you want to be a hero, well, just follow me.
And finally, the jive-talking genius who strutted right into our hearts, Barry Gibb.
The Bee Gees were the greatest of all time, and Barry Gibb was the main songwriter for them.
Know your eyes in the morning sun.
Barry also made it to the Q magazine's list of the 100 greatest singers and was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1997.
I would say he's just an icon.
We're rocking it 70s style on the Hot List. We'll be right back.
We are back and continuing to go old school. So put on some fingerless gloves and slap on some eyeliner because we are heading back to the early 2000s. Now the pop punk trend is back again. So Teresa Strasser is looking at some ways to add a bit of this look into your wardrobe.
The world's need for nostalgia continues, and now it's the look and sound of pop punk that's taking center stage.
Step, step.
Avril Lavigne's return to the music genre and the upcoming When We Were Young festival in Vegas have been driving factors for this phenomenon that's also now taking over the fashion world.
What is it about the punk rock look that is so appealing?
You know, with the pandemic, everybody was at home and we didn't really care what we wore. Now it's all about having fun and adding edge when we go out and we actually can see people.
Fashion stylist Elise Johnson's got the style trends that'll add a touch of pop punk to your wardrobe.
If you're intimidated to try it, start small. And I think you'll find that it's so much fun, you're probably just gonna wanna add pieces.
Skate right in like Avril.
Yeah.
Let's start with some jackets.
How can you ease into the look?
So it's easy to do a jean jacket, throw on some patches. You can even pin them on like we have here, and then you're not committed that way either.
A jean jacket or the classic black leather jacket are both great options to rock the look. Find them at sites like Levi's, Good American, or ASOS.
You've loaned me this, and I must say, I do feel at least 27% more cool.
Up next, let's talk about the print that screams punk style, plaid.
everyone has plaid?
Absolutely. And it's so easy, and it just adds a little oomph to your outfit.
You can go for the classic plaid shirt, plaid skirts, which you can accessorize with a studded belt, or...
So here's a plaid pant that you can wear, because plaid is all the rage, but then keep the rest of your outfit pretty simple so that this is where your eye goes.
Tons of options are available at spots like H&M, Old Navy, and even Amazon. Let's wrap it up with some footwear trends.
I'm seeing so many combat boots. Yeah. We had Doc Martin when we were younger.
Right.
Now they're back.
I know, yes. Definitely Doc Martin combat boots are the way to go. But if you don't want to splurge, you can find some like I have on that are just the look without the commitment or the price tag.
Or you can't go wrong with the it shoe for punk rockers, some good old Chuck Taylors.
Converse are so versatile, and they just add edginess.
And then, obviously, you get right into the mosh pit.
Straight to it.
We're rocking it out like it's the early 2000s with the perfect pop punk fashion trends.
I've definitely got pop punk vibes with my pleather skirt and gold embellishment.
I love the word pleather. I used to have a pair of wraparound sunglasses I thought maybe looked so rad.
Jimmy, you're still so rad.
Thanks.